So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for coming out and listening to what we all together want to tell you. Let me start with really thanking UBS, and it's not this typical thank you for being the host and blah blah blah. But UBS is really the reason why we are in the US, and UBS is also the reason why we are in Utah. And it all started 3 years ago when I was invited as a keynote speaker by UBS to an event in Florida, and I thought, why do they bring this crazy guy from Bavaria to Florida to talk about employment for autistic people? And the honest answer was there was nobody else that they could have invited who is running a business like we do. And I will, of course, come to the business in a second. So that was the first anchor with UBS. And then I met this fantastic gentleman, Jeff, and he said, you are coming to the US now, you need to do this business in Utah. I said, why Utah? And we have walked through all of the things together, and we have been here, I don't know, 4 or 5 times doing a road trip and looking for supporters wherever we can. And I will give you a status at the end on where we are. So really from the bottom of my heart, thank you, UBS, for doing that. So, and here's a little bit my story, but then more importantly the Auticon story in a nutshell. And I want to start with how the journey started for me. I was an investor into a fund. They came to me 8 years ago and said, Kurt, we want you to invest into a social enterprise. And I said, that means you want my money and I won't get it back. Do I get it correctly? And they said, not really. We want your money, that is true, but especially we want to give you a high social return, and probably there will be a small financial return. And the sentence that really made it with me is, we want to use business methodology in order to help solving social problems. And that for me was like, boom, that makes sense. I want to do this, I want to invest into this fund, and I hope that these funds will be tremendously successful in giving me a high social return. 6 months later, the guys came back and said, Kurt, could you imagine to run one of our social enterprises? And I said, only if it's Auticon, because for me, it was self-explaining that the Auticon model makes so much sense. You have, on the one hand side, people who are extremely good and extremely capable to do things. On the other side, you have this huge number of IT jobs that we want to fill, and honestly, around the world. I think that the number of vacant jobs in Utah right now is like 40,000 in the IT industry. I mean, sorry guys, we won't find 40,000 for you, but if you find 400 over a certain period, what a difference, right? And so talking really about, then they asked me to run Auticon. I'm doing it now since 7 years. I'm always getting very passionate about it. So tell me when it's going too long. But a lot of people ask me, Kurt, how many people do you have? How many children do you have on the spectrum? And my answer is currently 260. So I don't have myself children on the spectrum, but our founder Dirk, who founded Auticon 8 years ago, he has a son on the spectrum, and he was sitting in a smaller conference like this one. And he only had 2 questions to people being between 20 and 30. The first question, what kind of education do you have? I studied mathematics, I studied physics, I studied IT, and so on and so on. And the second question was, what are you doing today? The first guy said, I'm on a pension scheme. The second guy said, I'm not working at all, I'm unemployed whatsoever. And one guy, I think, was doing some shelf service in a supermarket. And he had studied mathematics or whatsoever. So Dirk thought, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. We need to do something here. And he finally found the Social Venture Fund, who gave him the first $500,000 to invest, and then started the story. And since then, we have been rolling out the model, and Dirk was with us the first 2 years. Now he's in our advisory board. He's already thinking about new models and concepts to make it work, or better work for autistic people. And we have been running the company now. I've been running the company since then. Just to give you 2-3 numbers on autism that you probably haven't heard before. The one you have heard for sure is that every 54th child that is born today is on the spectrum. So we are going away from 1% of the population to 2% of the population. The number that I find even more shocking is that in the age range of 19 to 25, the number has increased by 14% in the last 10 years. So that means, that we are looking to a definitely increasing part of our population. That by itself, of course, wouldn't be a problem if all of them would be employed. The real problem is that 85 to 90% of them are unemployed. And this is actually what Auticon wants to do, what Auticon wants to change. We want to, offer as many people as we can career opportunities in our company. As I said, we are now around 260, we have 260 employees on the spectrum, and total we are a little bit more than 300. And the magic number is we want to get to 1,000 employees as soon as we can, and as soon as doable. And in order to do that, of course, we want to start in more states here in the States, and I will come back to in which countries we are already. So what makes our model so unique? I think there are two key reasons why it works. The first reason is that Dirk, when he founded the company, he from the beginning said, we want to give the guys an environment where they can fully and totally concentrate on their strengths, which means we need somebody who takes away the pain points. We need somebody who knows them so well that, small issues like not being able to keep eye contact, not being really willing to shake hands, and all that kind of things. They are obvious, they are open. We tell our customers, and by doing that, we take away a lot of the stress level of our people. The biggest thing we are changing is they are no longer trying to hide their autism. Yeah, because typically people on the spectrum try to behave what we think is normal, or neurotypical, or whatever we call it. And one of my colleagues in Düsseldorf said one day, he said, "Kurt, when I shut the door in the morning and I go to work, I put on my interface saying, I'm neurotypical. And when I come home, I switch on my interface saying, oh, I'm on the spectrum and I'm dead now, because this is so exhausting." And what we are doing is we are turning this around and say, guys, wait a moment, the reason why we hire you is because you're on the spectrum. So be proud of it and say, I am super, super strong in what I'm in software development, in testing, in data analytics, whatever it is. And the reason why I'm so strong is because I do have a few capabilities that only autistic people have. And that turns, of course, around the whole story. And we have been starting in Germany 7 years ago, as I said. We needed to build it up in Germany first. Started in Berlin, and now we are in the big 7 cities. So we're in the north, in the middle, and in the south. We have more than 100 people working for us in Germany, and we are very lucky because we have fantastic customers such as BMW, Allianz, and some other names that you will know. Banking, insurance is very important for us. The car industry, of course, in Germany still is important. And so we are very happy that we can provide our colleagues with really nice jobs in nice environments. Our model is we hire the people on the spectrum, we make them our employees. They ideally have a long-term career with us. In Germany, we just celebrated the 21st person who is longer than 5 years with us. In a company that exists in 7 years, this is not a bad number. And this is what we really want. We want them to be long-term with us, and we employ them as consultants, which means we bring them into interesting projects at the customers. The customer, of course, pays for this, as he would be paying any other consulting business. And the important thing is also, we don't let the customer alone, but we have the job coaches that come in, that talk a little bit about autism, that make it very transparent. Where does the team that is coming from our side, where do the individuals have their strengths and probably some weaknesses? And then it's transparent, and if you have the chance and go to our website, and I really encourage you to do that, because you will not only see that video, but a lot of other videos. Basically the feedback always is, it was so much easier than we thought to have your people with us. And the second feedback is, the work was amazing. It was unbelievable. We never have seen something like that. We hired 2 guys, and I always like to tell examples because it's much better than anything else. We hired 2 guys in February of 2018 in London, both being around 40 years, both having a PhD, both being unemployed for 10 years. Now everybody would say, how is this possible? Honestly, I don't know. But you know, it seemed that they, at a certain point, just went out of the normal process. And we brought them back in. We had all the preparation we were doing with the guys. And after 3 months being with us, we sent one of them to Allianz and one of them to Virgin Money. And the only question we got after 4 weeks from the Allianz manager was, could we have 10 more of the same? Where has Robert, is his name, where has Robert been hiding? And the truth is, he hasn't been hiding. We as a society didn't see him, which is a different, of course, is a different story. So, I will afterwards, you know, conclude my small speech here with another example that I really like. And just to continue, after we had built it up in Germany, we went into the UK and into France. In the UK, we've been super happy, and yeah, it was kind of a blessing. We found Richard Branson as a shareholder. And the reason is not that Richard has put millions and millions in. The reason is, if Richard puts out a post to 15 million followers that there are 3 companies around the world that he really admires, and we are one of them, that helps. Tremendously helps. It makes a difference. By the way, Scho said he has a house here in Utah, so let's work on him. Yeah. The other thing, of course, you know, when you start to make the business international, you learn a few lessons more. In 2018, we thought because London worked out pretty well after 7 months. In France, it took half a year later, but then it was also doing fine. And then in 2018, we said we want to complete the picture by also having a business in Zurich. It's a very important capital for money, of course. So we have a business there, and we started in Milano, which is more the Italian mafia central for money. So, and all of that is going very well, and we, I told the UBS story before, also had already had a look at the US, and we found a company on the West Coast called MindSpark that was doing a similar model than the one we did. And we said, we don't want to start in the US from scratch, we want to buy a business, take that as our basis, and then build on it. And this is actually what we're doing. By the way, we are doing the same in Canada, where we acquired a company called Meticulon, also being 5 years old, doing the same thing we are doing. They are in Calgary, we are in Montreal already, and now we're starting up in Toronto. And that is, I think, really, really fascinating. And in the US, of course, we started we have 3 offices now in Los Angeles. We have just started Ohio, right? I always challenge them a little bit, you know, because it's going really well there, and they promised me that Utah will be even better. So I'm very curious and looking forward to that. We have been so far, you know, we have been really following a little bit where people want us. We, for example, started 1.5 years ago in Edinburgh. Edinburgh was not on our list at all, but they have a fantastic 20-year-old digital minister, and she did everything she could do in order to bring us there, and it's a huge success story. So we really want to go where we feel welcome. We feel very welcome here in Utah. So a lot of people here in this room made us feel extremely welcome. But now it's also about, you know, getting it done, getting basically on the road with it. And until last week, we had a lot of focus on Ohio, but this is now off and running. We found our local team there. So now the next weeks, it's really all about Utah from our point of view, and we are very much looking forward to get started here and to move into this fantastic building that you have been just seeing before. Let me just give you, before I close with my example, let me give you two more numbers that I heard the last days, which I found really interesting. Talking about social impact and social impact investing. There, you know, the fund I invested into was a 2.3 million euro fund 7 years ago. And it took them 2 years to basically find crazy people, you know, who invest into this fund and so on. BlackRock has just announced that they will do a 200 billion impact fund, which means the world has changed. The world has changed dramatically, and there's literally no investment company who's not also looking to do impact investing. And I find it so encouraging. I think this is just amazing, and this will make a tremendous difference. The second thing is, I talked to Deloitte in the UK a few weeks ago, and they said, Kurt, we want to hire 4,000 people in 2020 in the UK. We will not be able to find them if we don't have an answer on all the questions the millennials are asking. Because now the millennials are getting to the labor market, and I don't want to hear the story you get 5,000 euro more if you do a great job in 2 years from now. They want answers on environment, they want answers on diversity, of course, ideally on neurodiversity, and they want answers on sustainability. And if they don't get these answers, they're black and white, they just say, then this company is not for me. So I think there are a lot of things going on in the market which make us very, very optimistic that, you know, the 85–90% unemployment rate for not only autistic people but of course also other areas is history. And yeah, as you said before, we encourage all of you to be part of that journey. We can help we can need any help we can get. We cannot have too many ambassadors, so please go out, tell the story, make people, of course, especially on the spectrum, aware that we are here. Encourage them to send their CV, encourage them to come to us. And if Joel gives me 2 more minutes, then I will just conclude with one of my favorite stories. It is about a colleague in Munich. His name is Martin. He came to us it's now 6 years ago, and before he was 50 years old, and he was unemployed between 43 and 50. And it was one of my first interviews that I did with one of the colleagues. And honestly, after 5 minutes, I thought, Kurt, what are you doing? This will never work out, because we had a person there, you know, sitting basically on the chair in the interview. His feet were going like this all the time. He was looking to the ground, and the only answer we got was a yes or a no. So we tried to start a conversation. Nothing happened. Then we came to the more important part, and we were talking about programming languages. And we said, Martin, in your age, you probably still know COBOL. Are you good in that? And he said, yes. And we went on and on and on, and he always said yes. And we said, either this guy is crazy, or he's really able to speak 17 different programming languages. And so we started, you know, our process with him. We invited our job coach to get to know Martin, to help him out with the train drive from 50 kilometers away from Munich to our office, and all the other crazy things we're doing. And we brought Martin into a project at one of the biggest Bavarian banks called Bayerische Landesbank. We brought him in for 3 months, and out of these 3 months became 18 months. During these 18 months, Martin started to talk, and he started to talk even to the women in our team, because at the beginning they were just not existing. And I asked him later on, Martin, why didn't you talk to the women at the beginning? And he said, Kurt, because they all look the same. And I was always worried that I would just say to Jay, Stephanie, or whatever, right? And to continue from the product side, how has Martin developed? When we started, we asked him to do a picture of the team Munich, 3 people. He said, you will never get a picture from me. 3 years later, we redid our website, and we were looking for consultants who were willing to participate and were willing to sit there for half a day and do 300 pictures and blah, blah, blah. And Martin said, I want to do this. And Martin, in his 3rd project, was working for UniCredit, another big bank, together with a colleague. And the result of what they did for the chief security officer there was so stunning that Alexander, is his name, he called me and said, good, I want the guys to present at the boat lunch. I said, okay, I probably should go there. wisdom there. And then I talked to Martin, and Martin said, no, Kurt, we won't need you. You don't have any idea what I'm doing there, so just stay home. I will do the presentation. This is the same person that came in as I explained it beforehand. And we want to replicate as often as we can. Every single one is a big success for us. If it is, you know, people say it's only 10. It's not only 10. 10 is fantastic. 20 is better, 30 is better, 50 is great. And let's try to get at least 50 here in Utah. And I'm looking forward to your support on that. Thank you so much.